We're previewing the 2021 NFL Draft as we look at position groups, joined by David Diehl. I am John Schmeelk. And Dave, today we're going to take a look at the guys in the middle of your defense, those off-ball inside linebackers and those big old defensive tackles. The Giants losing Dalvin Tomlinson in free agency, so maybe they might look to get a replacement there at some point. But Dave, for the guys that play inside on this defensive line, it's not the deepest class. Who are the guys that you like that are going to be those run stuffers? Let's start with that group first.
You got it. As you said, this isn't the deepest class for defensive tackles and interior nose tackles, but there are a few good players that are going to be out there. Problem is they're going to be the first ones gone, and it's going to be a rush to get these guys if they are available. Let's start at the nose tackle position. Elaine Mcneill out of NC State. You know, some people have a third-round grade on him. Powerful hands and strength to reset at the line of scrimmage. Very strong and explosive out of his stance to dictate the tempo at the line of scrimmage. But the problem that I see out of him is his length to shed when hands are not active. When he doesn't use his hands and when he doesn't get good hand leverage, he doesn't have the strength to blow through a blocker and to create separation. And he has a problem of recognizing down blocks and double teams. That's something at the nose tackle position that you better be able to understand, because that's all you're going to get in the NFL game. For me, I think the real defensive tackle, if you're looking at three technique, obviously it's Christian Barrymore out of Alabama. Powerful hands, strength to move, plays violent, strong, absolutely disruptive, not only in the run game, but in the passing game. He's another one. Double hand swipe to the side. He'll club as he's getting your body weight going one way. You know, the one thing that I worry about, his inconsistent get off. Sometimes he guesses at the line of scrimmage. He has some offsides penalties. That's something that you can't allow to happen on when you're sitting there looking at the football in your stance. And the other thing, conditioning. We all know when it comes to a big player and you're over 300 pounds, when his conditioning later in games was down, he led to inconsistent pad levels, gave his up numbers, started to give up movement at the line of scrimmage. But I think that he is probably the best defensive tackle, I think, coming into this draft. Davian Nixon out of Iowa. He is another player that I think that can really excel at this level. Holds off double teams and can two-gap, plays with natural leverage. You know, 4.8, 640, 1.70, 10-yard split. So we know that he can get off and really split those gaps and split double teams. But my problem is vision through the offensive line to the running back. Sometimes he waits too long at the line of scrimmage to shed and to make pursuit to get to the running back. And one other area, you can't loaf on the backside, my man. You've got to play every play through, because sometimes if you're loafing as the three technique on the backside and you're not playing with that backside pursuit, all it is one cut-up angle, and that run that should have been stopped at the line of scrimmage is now getting to the second level. That's an area that he definitely needs to improve in as well.
By the way, folks, Dave, show them the notebook again. For the folks that think Dave is reading off some kind of draft guide or something like that, or some internet notes. No. Dave watches these guys. Those are his own notes based on what he's seen on tape, who have tried to block these defensive linemen his whole career. All right, let's go to inside linebacker, Dave. And the consensus number one player in this class is Micah Parsons, who
with good reason.
With good reason. Tested off the charts. I don't think his first and second down role is in doubt at all. Sideline to sideline, takes on blocks, shoots gaps, hits the hole, not afraid of shedding blocks, does all those things. So before we get to what he's going to do on third down, just talk about his elite play in those early down situations.
Yeah, I mean, he plays with a tremendous amount of football IQ and vision, and he's able to diagnose things pre-snap. That's something that you have to be able to do right away at the linebacker position. And it's not only him. You see him communicating to the rest of the defense based upon that pre-snap recognition and getting everybody on the same page. I think we've seen great linebackers like Luke Kuechly do that in the NFL and excel, and how it makes everybody better around you. That's something that he brings to his game. You know, some of the areas that he does need to improve on is making sure that he's more physical, taking on blocks. Sometimes he works around them and it gives up space and it gives up an extra gap. And the other thing, we all know with linebackers, when you're coming to the NFL level, you've got to do a better job of taking coverage angles and pursuit angles when you're working in coverage. But we know that when you play linebacker, especially in today's game, you better be a three-down linebacker.
Yeah, Dave, and it's funny you mentioned that. He was a defensive end in high school.
Yeah.
So he didn't play linebacker a lot. And as you well know, to your point, that's the last thing that kind of comes along for linebackers, doing those being in those right passing lanes when you drop into zone, making those reads and all that stuff. That usually comes last. But the good thing for Parsons is that he's so good at going after the quarterback. You might not even want him covering on third down anyway. You're just going to use him like the Bucs use Devin White and say, dude, go get the quarterback, whether it's blitzing inside or even coming off the edge.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the great things. We've seen him ripping off of the edge in 2-point stances. We've seen him being able to blitz down the middle or letting the inside stunt, whether it's a TE or ET work, and then split through him again. He has the absolute athleticism to get all of those things done. And that's one area where you talk about the fluidity of him and still having to possess some of those coverage skills. He's an unbelievable worker. Everybody talks about his traits and the way that he approaches the game. So you know that this is an area that he'll continue to improve. And that versatility of whether you just want to put him at the line of scrimmage and say, go and use him as a spy and force a running back to try to take him on or to drop him back in coverage. Those are weapons that every defensive coordinator would love to have on their side of the ball.
And at 6'4", 245 pounds is not some small 225-pound linebacker either. This guy is a man amongst boys at the college level playing linebacker. So really good player. And he would fit right next to Blake Martinez extremely well, by the way. Then you would take over for Blake once Blake obviously ends his career, whether he moves on or retires or whatever. Yep. If they don't want to go Parsons in the first round, who, by the way, I think would certainly be in the mix at number 11. If he even gets there, he could be the top defensive player in this draft. Dave could be the first guy off the board on defense. But if you want to wait a little bit later, who do you like from this next group of inside linebackers and off-ball guys? You have Zaven Collins from Tulsa, who I think is pretty good. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Is he a linebacker, though? Maybe he's a strong safety. I don't know.
That's the thing that you worry about, because with him, obviously, explosive athlete, has the range, the instincts, all the pre-snap diagnosis, hits with power. He'll run through offensive players, causes forced fumbles. You put him on special teams, he's an absolute missile out there. You saw him making plays for Notre Dame all over the field. One question with that 211 or 221 size, finishing tackles. That's one area. Taking big down backs was one area struggled. And will he be able to take on blockers on the interior? I know for myself, whether you're running a 4-3 or a 3-4, and you're getting that bubble and you have the gap between the center and the tackle, and it's uncovered, these are the guys that you want to attack to see if they can hold up for 4+ quarters. So it is a question. Is he a tweener? Is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? How are you going to try to utilize him? And then for me, like you said, Zaven Collins out of Tulsa, this reminds me of Dante Hightower completely. Huge body, 6'4", 259, 4'6", long arm, physical, and has the potential to be great because of his size, his weight, his speed. He can get off of the edge if you put him in a 4-3 and he can play that weak side, or you can have scheme versatility where you have him as an inside 3-4 linebacker because of his size and being able to hold up. That's the way the New England Patriots use Dante Hightower. And I'll tell you what, after those games, each and every one of us that had one-on-ones had headaches walking away from it because of the thump that he would bring. That's what type of player he is as well. One area where he needs to improve, takes the cheese too much in play action. You see him get anticipation and excited trying to make a play, takes 2 false steps up, and now all of a sudden they're able to get over the top with a tight end or a wheel route. That's an area where he needs to improve, and he has an area of breaking down in the open field and having some missed tackles. He's got to make sure he gets his feet underneath him instead of just trying to use his athleticism and size in order to take people down.
And then you have guys like Jamin Davis, Bolton, some other guys that people do like in the second or third round, maybe Jabril Cox, the transfer to LSU. Yep. Anyone else from that group, Dave? Whichever one of the guys you like the best that you think could really fit what the Giants do, what of that group do you like?
Davis out of Kentucky is an intriguing prospect. You know, great block recognition, shoots gaps. He doesn't have those false steps like I was just talking about with Zaven Collins. He has his feet underneath him, can close, run sideline to sideline. You know, once again, is a guy that I see maybe second, third round type of talent. Some people have him in the first, but the reason why I don't have him in the first, you see him more of a zone coverage linebacker compared to being a man linebacker. He struggles sometimes when he's in man one-on-one up against tight ends and running backs, and he's only a one-year starter, so he's not as polished as some of these other linebackers.
Dave, excellent rundown, my friend. We appreciate the time as always.
Thank you, Johnny.
That's a look at the defensive tackles and inside linebackers in the 2021 NFL Draft. For David Diehl, I'm John Schmeelk. We'll see you next time.